no one in the mainstream media has been brave enough to go there. Well, that has just changed.
She really is pretty empty, other than that she has this amazing title and has always got the threat of destroying the British royal family.
He then, I think, was engineered into a meeting at Soho House with Meghan, and I think there was a lot of engineering went on there.
The reason why these pictures are so problematic for Meghan Markle is because these pictures place her with Jeffrey Epstein.
And I think your viewers will be interested in this, is when Meghan, before she gets married, meets a very, very famous, important member of the British establishment. And that person is brought in every 3 to 4 weeks to Kensington Palace.
Let me tell you something that the mainstream media is absolutely terrified to say out loud. Tom Bower, the man who has made Harry and Meghan's lives a living nightmare with his bombshell book, Betrayal, has been sitting on information that is now starting to explode into the open.
Tom Bower, author of Betrayal, Power, Deceit, and the Fight for the Future of the Royal Family, a forensic examination of the many contradictions and controversies surrounding Prince Harry and Meghan Markle over the past 7 years.
And when you combine what Tom Bower has been saying for years with what is now being openly discussed about investigations into Meghan Markle, the IRS, immigration, child services, you start to realize that this house of cards is not just wobbling, it is coming down. Stay with me, because what I'm about to share with you in the next few minutes is going to completely change how you see this entire story.
And it has to be something that we continue to talk about, because there is something there that we need to find the missing pieces to, because I believe a lot of it was scrubbed off of the internet way before we even knew who Meghan Markle was.
Tom Bower did not just write a book. He opened a door, and through that door, people are now walking through, asking questions that should have been asked years ago. Let's start with the money, because Tom Bower has been crystal clear about this. The Sussex finances are in free fall. Their lifestyle costs a minimum of £3 million a year after tax. The Netflix deal is gone. The Spotify deal was a disaster. The Jam isn't selling. The lifestyle brand is flopping.
They're rapidly burning through their cash, and they don't know how they're going to keep on funding this lavish lifestyle.
Well, I think that is absolutely true. I mean, I raised that more than 2 years ago, that once the Netflix deal expired, which I knew it would, that they really have a huge financial problem, because their lifestyle costs them a minimum after tax of £3 million a year.
So where exactly is the money coming from? That is precisely the question that is making people call for an IRS investigation. Because when your income dries up but your spending doesn't, somebody always comes knocking. And in America, that somebody wears a badge and works for the Internal Revenue Service. But it doesn't stop there. Harry's US visa situation has been one of the most carefully buried stories of the last 3 years. Harry admitted in his own memoir, Spare, to drug use. Hard drug use, cocaine, cannabis, magic mushrooms. All of it written in his own words, recorded in his own voice for the audio version, something Tom Bower pointedly highlighted.
You're doing the Lord's work, Tom Bower, having to count the word Todger in the book Spare. I mean, what must have Meghan thought? Actually, you talk about that. You say she's exhausted by the book in the end, and she just wants to focus on her own pursuits. But I would be embarrassed as the wife to have that. I mean, Jimmy Kimmel goes after him over this, and I would be humiliated over him fixating on this in his big book.
Well, it just shows you what a child he is, a schoolboy, not realizing the damage he was inflicting on himself, the humiliation, the parody was.
Because Harry didn't just write this poison, as Tom Bower calls it. He read it out loud. He endorsed every single word.
Pathetic, not so funny, it's actually tragic. What Harry revealed by that is a complete lack of any self-awareness, of any understanding of reality.
Now here is what is extraordinary. Under US immigration law, drug use is grounds for visa denial. Full stop. Yet Harry sits in Montecito, California, with what appears to be zero consequences. No explanation, no transparency, nothing. Tom Bower has consistently pointed out that Harry and Meghan believe the rules simply do not apply to them. And for a long time, they were right. But the question being asked louder and louder now is, how much longer can that last?
They don't want to be used anymore. So I think the truth is there'll be the occasion at a party and things like that. But I mean, you know, It's always the same in Hollywood. You must have experienced it. People are always looking over your shoulder to see who's more important. And they'll be looking over Meghan's shoulder because she's so unimportant now.
Yeah.
She's no longer a royal. She's a sort of B-list celebrity.
And then there's child services. Now, I know that makes some of you uncomfortable, but when you look at the questions being raised, not by fringe voices, but by people who have done serious research about the births of Archie and Lilibet.
I think she actually has not necessarily told the full truth about her age. I think she's actually a lot older than she actually purports to be.
Do you think?
And yes, I do. And I think even her father and her sister have alluded to that. A lot of her contemporaries at school, which was 6 years more than she actually claims to be, which brings a question mark into the birth of Archie and Lilibet.
About the timelines, about what has and hasn't been shown publicly, these are questions that deserve answers, not accusations, questions. And in 2026, those questions are getting harder and harder to ignore.
Samantha Markle, and she is absolutely convinced. She's seen this going viral again, P. Dinah, and she is absolutely convinced that it is totally wrong and totally unfair to suggest that the Markle family have been involved in any type of bid to cover up the truth about Meghan's age. And it is just worth me taking you through some of what she's actually said on this, P. Dinah. So Sam says she was 11 in 1975. They were still in Chicago at that point, P. Dinah. So she says, there's no way my sister could only be 10 years younger than me. Everyone can verify at the school where she started in pre-kindergarten in the mid-80s. So she was born in 81. We know when she was born, she was a baby in our house. I went through Doria as pregnancy with her.
Now, this is where Tom Bower's work becomes absolutely critical, because Bower has always maintained that the story of how Meghan Markle entered Harry's life is not the story we were told. Think about what we actually know. The official narrative is a fairy tale. Two people meet by chance through a mutual friend. They fall in love. The end.
I do just wonder if the mainstream media are starting to realize there's a story about Meghan Markle and her past that has long not been told, and it's about time that you stop being in cahoots with those losers in Montecito and you start putting your investigations onto what went on, because in reality, what it will do is convince the British royal family that these two must be out of the line of succession, that they must lose their titles.
But Tom Bower and serious researchers who have been digging into this for years are now openly questioning whether that Soho House meeting was engineered, deliberately, carefully, by people with serious money and serious connections. And here's what makes this so interesting. In April 2026, the name Marcus Anderson keeps coming up, a well-connected member of the Soho House set, someone who has remained extraordinarily close to Harry and Meghan long after almost everyone else has been ghosted and discarded.
That Jessica Reed-Krause of House and Habit says that she has the receipts, and the Yacht Girl story is something that she has been working on now for years and years. And what I think is most interesting, P. Dinah, is we need to discover who engineered that meeting. Because we've seen in Australia, haven't we, Marcus Anderson of the Soho House set, very much a member of the establishment, such a part of Meghan and Harry's marriage, even to today, when so many other people have been ghosted and gone by the wayside. They can't shake him off.
And as Tom Bower has noted, Meghan has a very long list of people she has ghosted and discarded. Why has Marcus Anderson survived that call? That is a question worth sitting with.
She is quite ruthless in dropping and dumping people and then very publicly castigating them without any truth at all. So I think you can say both things, that she has turned Harry against his family, there's no doubt about that, in a very vicious way, and predictable, because if you remember, Samantha Markle, her half-sister, predicted before the wedding that Meghan would break up the family, just as she'd broken up her own family. I mean, she is a breaker of relationships, because Meghan in the end is only interested in one person.
And then there is the Mediterranean, a period in Meghan's life that is now starting to attract serious attention. Photographs are surfacing, timelines are being examined, and the question being asked is, what was Meghan Markle doing in the years before she became a minor cable television actress on a show called Suits?
There's a whole period in her life where a lot of the photographs are beginning to surface of her life in the Mediterranean before she even met Harry, and I think there's a lot of engineering that's gone on there that will eventually come out.
Tom Bauer has been forensic about Meghan's ambition. He has described her as a woman of huge ambition and total ruthlessness.
Meghan is a woman of huge ambition and total ruthlessness on her terms, but she is a woman without much talent.
A woman who, as a 5-year-old girl, stood on a Hollywood red carpet with her father and said, "Daddy, I want to do this. I want to be the star." That ambition didn't appear from nowhere in 2016 when she met Harry. It was there all along.
She wanted to be the star, and of course she failed. She failed on her own terms because the highest she got was Suits, which was, a small program, nothing very important, but then became the star by getting married to Harry, a global star. And instead of being happy with that and taking the terms, she was determined everything had to be on her terms. And that was worse than narcissism. That was destructive. She's an agent of destruction.
And ambitious women in Hollywood who want access to powerful rooms have always found ways to get into those rooms.
That position usually is being on a yacht, doing things, to be in rooms with people that are decision makers or who can give you access to power. So it makes a lot of sense.
Tom Bauer has documented extensively how Suits was never the platform Meghan needed. It was a minor cable show, respectable but not star-making. And yet somehow this woman ended up at a private members club, sitting across from a British prince. The age question adds another layer entirely.
He has very high connections to powerful people that are in Meghan's world as we speak. So I believe there is some kind of connection to a higher up somewhere that we really don't know how or, who has orchestrated this.
If serious researchers are correct, and Meghan is significantly older than her official biography states, and her own family members have been curiously evasive rather than definitively dismissive. On this point, then entire chapters of her official story start to look very different.
The Meghan Markle yacht girl claims simply will not go away. And I've spoken about this before, but until now, no one in the mainstream media has been brave enough to go there. Well, that has just changed.
Tom Bauer built his entire reputation on following the threads that others refused to follow. And right now, those threads are leading somewhere very uncomfortable for the Duchess of Sussex.
I think he thinks she's dreadful, and she has behaved dreadfully. I think that he saw her as an ambitious opportunist, a woman of absolutely no substance other than being a hussy from Hollywood.
Now, Tom Bauer said something in a recent interview that sent his own audience into a complete spin. He suggested that Catherine, the Princess of Wales, felt threatened by Meghan Markle.
That she has a ruthlessness which threatened Catherine or Kate. I think that she wasn't going to put up with curtsying to the future queen.
And the reaction was extraordinary. Because here's the thing about Tom Bauer. His audience agrees with virtually everything he says. But on this one point, Catherine feeling threatened by Meghan, the pushback was immediate and fierce, and almost universal. And I think both things are true simultaneously. Tom Bauer is right that Meghan represented something Catherine had to reckon with. Meghan was loud.
It's fair when people call Meghan a narcissist. Is that
I think that's so true, and it's an understatement.
Understatement.
Well, I think that she's much more than that. I mean, she is. I mean, it's just as you said in Australia. I've been campaigning for women all my life. Now I'm campaigning for myself. I mean, it's all ridiculous. She never campaigned for women. She always campaigned for herself.
Meghan was aggressive. Meghan was willing to break every unwritten rule of the institution without a moment's hesitation. And yes, Meghan had a certain kind of performative charisma that generated enormous media attention in those early months.
Everyone wants to see what Meghan will wear, what Meghan will say, what Meghan will how she'll behave, and of course the kiss. which she gave Harry in the front of everyone in that stadium, was so contrived. I watched it and thought, there she is, the great actress, or the bad actress, whichever way you take it. And she loved the performance. And even he was surprised by it. And so the moment she then went back to Montecito in California, because she had some crisis with her TV series, all the coverage stopped. No one was interested in the games. No one was interested in Harry.
But what Tom Bauer perhaps underestimated is this. Catherine is not a woman who gets threatened. Catherine is a woman who gets it. She got it immediately.
Kate could see quite immediately that Meghan was furious that they were living in a small house in Kensington Palace compared to the sumptuous 20 rooms occupied by the then Cambridges.
She saw exactly what Meghan was within weeks of meeting her. Not a rival, a problem. A very serious institutional problem, dressed up in designer clothes.
William, to his credit, tried to warn William that it wasn't going to work.
Harry, yeah.
To warn Harry that it wasn't going to work. And Harry didn't take the advice because Harry was caught. He was determined to marry Meghan for his own reasons.
Catherine had spent years, a decade of patient, careful, quiet work, understanding what the monarchy needed, what it required, what it demanded of you personally. She had made those sacrifices. She had shown up on cold days in Colchester, as Tom Bauer himself said. She had opened hospitals in Stockport. She had done the invisible, unglamorous work that actually holds an institution together. And then Meghan arrived and made absolutely clear she had zero intention of doing any of that. What Catherine felt was not threatened.
Meghan is a woman who's very, very conscious of money because of her childhood and everything, and therefore is terrified and needs to build the brand. And the Netflix deal fell apart because they had nothing new to offer, as ever was a failure. I think they put all the effort they could into making it successful. But in the end, Meghan had nothing to offer other than smiling with a lot of non-entities.
What Catherine felt was the particular fury of someone who has earned something watching another person try to take a shortcut straight to the reward without paying any of the cost. Tom Bauer himself noted that Meghan thought she should be the future queen. Let that sink in. A woman who had been in the royal family for 5 minutes believed she should be Queen of England.
And I think the biggest threat of all was that Meghan thought that she should be the future queen. And that clearly was not going to happen. But that really meant a lot to Kate. There was this rival across the corridor who wasn't going to be content with being lower in the pecking order.
Catherine has known since she was 20 years old that she will one day be queen. She has prepared for it every single day. She has sacrificed privacy and freedom and spontaneity for it. She has survived public humiliation and press intrusion and family drama for it.
His future is dwindling away and he sees it happening. This is why he's so desperate to leave California, to get out and be about and do different things, because it is really hurting him mentally right now to see what is happening.
And Meghan wanted to skip the queue. That is not a threat. That is an insult. And Catherine quietly, gracefully, devastatingly, simply waited.
And I don't think there's some unbelievably rich billionaire in California desperate to take on Meghan and all her baggage. So I don't think her exit would be smooth.
Because Catherine understood something Meghan never did and never will. The institution always wins. Look at where we are in April 2026. Catherine is celebrated globally. The new Fab Four, William, Catherine, Edward, and Sophie, are receiving the kind of coverage and adoration that Harry and Meghan used to dream about.
The mainstream media describing them as the new Fab Four. And you just know for Harry, that's the ultimate dig. What did you think of this?
Oh my goodness. When I saw that, I was like, yes, and I think this is one of those images that really shows Harry. He has lost his way completely because he was supposed to be a part of that. And I believe he still wants to be a part of that. He wanted so desperately for Meghan to fit in, to be a part of this. And I think he feels slighted. He feels like, yeah, they're moving on. They're replacing me now. And I think it's going so deep for Harry right now to see how he is becoming further and further away from the inner circle of the royal family. He can't bear it.
And where are Harry and Meghan? Burning through Diana's inheritance in a Montecito mansion, wondering how to pay next year's bills. Tom Bower called that one perfectly. He said there has to be an end, and we are watching that end happen in real time.
The money is running out. The inheritance from Diana is gone. In 5 years, all of the money is going to be gone. So it's like, you can keep running, Harry, but he can't hide from this very real problem in the marriage, which, as I say, Dan Wakeford did say may well be impossible to reconcile. Now, I know he's just catching up on lots of the reporting that you have done, P. Dinah, lots of the reporting that I have done, but the reason it was significant is because for such a long time, he effectively was the propagandist for the Sussexes. Do you remember at People magazine, he ran that front page cover when all of Meghan's friends spoke out, and she then sued the Mail on Sunday over it. He was also responsible for the Us Weekly piece, which took a very similar theme. So it almost feels like even their allies now, P. Dinah, cannot deny the trouble in the marriage.
Tom Bower talks about truth. He has built his career on it. And sometimes the most devastating truth comes in the form of numbers. The YouGov polling released recently to mark the late Queen Elizabeth's centenary is nothing short of catastrophic for Harry and Meghan. The late Queen herself, 81% positive. Princess Diana, 77%. Prince William, 76%. Catherine, 75%. Princess Anne, 70%. Even King Charles, navigating enormous controversy, is sitting at 60%. And then you get to Harry and Meghan. Harry, 30%. A man who once rivaled the Queen herself in popularity polls. A man who was genuinely beloved by the British public. Now sitting at 30%, with 70% of his own countrymen viewing him negatively. Meghan, 20%. Tom Bower said it plainly. They are a sad, desperate couple, and those numbers prove it beyond any argument. The only person keeping them from absolute rock bottom is Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, sitting at a catastrophic 3%.
Queen Elizabeth II, 81% of people still have a positive view in the United Kingdom. 77% of people have a positive view of Princess Diana. 76% Prince William. 75% Catherine. 70% Princess Anne. Actually, Charles, given the controversy surrounding Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, doing very well. 60%, actually above his father, Prince Philip, 54%. Prince Edward, 53%. Then you start getting into the disapproval areas. Queen Camilla, the public have never forgiven her for her treatment of Diana, 42%. But then it's devastating, utterly devastating for the least popular three sort of royals, or non-royals, you might say these days. Prince Harry, 30%. Now, P. Dinah, he used to beat the Queen in some of these polls. So he's gone from over 80% to 30%. Meghan Markle, 20%. But you could argue, P. Dinah, there is that sort of gulf still between them and Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, who has just a 3% approval rating. But for Harry to be on a 30% approval rating, 70% of his countrymen disapprove of him, P. Dinah, that is unrecoverable.
And frankly, given everything Tom Bower has revealed about Andrew the Epstein connection, the behavior in Warsaw, the shotgun licenses removed over mental health concerns, that 3% probably represents people who answered the survey without knowing who they were rating.
A lot of speculation in the papers about the fact that Meghan might have met Prince Andrew while a guest on Jeffrey Epstein's yacht.
What those numbers mean practically is this. No mainstream brand wants to be associated with a 20% approval rating. No serious media partner wants that relationship. No Hollywood door opens easily for someone that 8 out of 10 people view negatively. Tom Bower saw this coming 2 years ago. He said once the Netflix money runs out, they have a massive problem. He was right. He is always right. Because unlike the people they carefully select to interview them, Tom Bower does not accept the narrative uncritically. He follows the evidence.
Really interesting, isn't it? Sure, it's baby steps, but the fact that we now have a mainstream media figure, a very famous one, posing the question directly, I want to ask Meghan Markle about her yacht girl past, the key line there, and the line that really, really interested me, was not a question about whether she was a yacht girl, but just simply stating as a fact and then asking, was it double figures or triple in terms of how many yachts she was a guest on before she met Prince Harry?
So where does this all end? Tom Bower has been clear. He believes William, once he becomes king, will move decisively. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex titles gone. Harry's prince title gone. The children's titles gone. Clean. Complete. Final.
Harry rightly is worried that once William becomes king, Charles won't do it, of course.
No.
But once William becomes king, he'll remove the problem completely by removing the Duke and Duchess of Sussex title and also Harry's prince title.
And Tom Bower believes the Australian tour, that desperate performative display of fading relevance, has actually accelerated that timeline because Charles watched it.
Harry performed when he was in Australia. That was a performance of trying to make things look as if they are, well with Harry and Meghan. But as soon as the retreat event was to begin with Meghan, like Harry, when he was there watching her on the stage, he jetted off so quickly. This man does not want to be around her when he doesn't have to be to perform.
William watched it, and what they saw was a couple commercially exploiting the royal connection in a way that the institution simply cannot continue to tolerate.
I want to take you through the Julie Birchall column because it's just so much fun anyway, P. Dinah, because obviously this Australian girls weekend is nothing more than a money-making sham. When I read that my role model in spreading jam to flower, speaking the truth to power, will be hosting a women-only weekend retreat in Sydney during her forthcoming Australia jaunt, with tickets a steal, $2,699 Australian dollars. I already had my credit card in my hot little hand.
The IRS questions aren't going away. The immigration questions aren't going away. The questions about Meghan's past the Mediterranean years, the engineered meeting, the timeline questions, those aren't going away either. If anything, they are getting louder in April 2026, as more voices in the mainstream media finally find the courage to ask what independent researchers have been asking for years. Tom Bower opened the door with betrayal. He told the story they desperately did not want told, and now that door cannot be closed. The truth has a way of doing that. If this video opened your eyes, hit subscribe right now and watch the videos on your screen, because we are just getting started.